Grab your favorite alcoholic or non alcoholic beverage, drink responsibly, do not drink and drive, and join us for the latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. Everything in this podcast is purely for entertainment and psychoeducational purposes only. Enjoy! Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Join us as we attempt to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine or any other beverage of your choice. I am Dr. Jody Lorman, licensed clinical psychologist, and today I'm actually drinking something because it is the middle of the day. And day drinking is absolutely fine. I don't have a
There is
problem.
nothing. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. Except for when you have to drive somewhere, please do not drink and drive. Please do not drink and then decide you're okay to drive. Don't drink while you're driving, any of that. Please drink responsibly. But this is called Simpler Wine. It's
Ooh,
wine in a can, and it is a peach Italian wine cocktail. And it
ooh, that
comes
sounds
from
really good.
Trader Joe's in a little 4-pack.
See, I love Trader Joe's. We don't have Trader Joe's in
You don't
Canada.
have,
I have
oh,
to drive across the border, but I do. Not now. Not right at the moment.
and this is 8% alcohol by volume.
Oh,
Not
hello.
bad for a little
Yeah,
can.
no, I love that.
And my Tumblr today says wine because punching people in the face is illegal.
Yeah, well said, right? I wish it wasn't sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah, in our world. So, my name is Bree Burry, and I am a licensed therapist up in British Columbia, Canada. And we are going to be discussing sort of a few things, but I think based on our current world and world stage, economic stage, and that we've had quite the rife between Canada and the US, and I'm Canadian and Jody's American, this is sort of a great place to
And
talk about
Californian.
sorry, Californian, right? My bad. Whoop, right? Just like how Albertans are going to be saying, I'm Albertan and I'm not Canadian, just based on the fact that that's the Texas of Canada. But anyways, we just had our election, and the reason why it's so, I think, something that we need to touch on, and it's important for those who don't understand, you know, Canadian politics versus American politics, and that the two elections were different countries. So we don't butt into each other's elections, but for the first time in history, our election was massively influenced by Trump. The only reason why, and I'm going to say this. So now, I've I you vote whatever you vote, it's your business. Everybody's entitled to vote. That's what democracy is, okay? And the one thing I do like is when our election happened, both leaders were dignified in how they responded. And even Polyev, who lost, he's the Conservative Party, and lost his riding too. That says a lot. Was very dignified. And, we now have a liberal government, which hasn't changed. We've had one now for 8, 9 years. Um, but it's a minority government, which means that there's 144 seats of the Conservatives in the House of Commons because it adds up to 372. And in order to win the majority, the party in favor has to have 172 seats. And I think Mark Carney got 169, I believe. So it's a liberal minority, which means we have conservative influence. It's kind of like when Trump won the House and the Senate, right? The same idea. So but the reason why it went liberal, because it would have gone conservative based on the fact that Trudeau, now here's the deal. I'm not a fucking politician. I know politics a little bit and I'm learning a lot more, but I'm glad I don't have that job. Who am I to judge? Trudeau, although put the country in a lot of debt and had increasing different things, and I don't think was as qualified for the position because he was following in the footsteps of his father, of his dad, Trudeau, back in the
Here.
60s. Pierre Trudeau. There was a lot of massive spending, but the thing that people don't think about or remember is that, our doors being open to immigrants coming into our countries because we don't have the resources for nurses and for medical and for all these things and trades. And so bringing them in, they're qualified to do them. It's not taking jobs away from us. We don't have people qualified for those positions, and we don't have the manpower for them. We're only 4 billion people versus the States is 400, sorry, 4 million
I
people
was going to
versus
say, we're
the States.
only
Yeah,
350 or
yeah, yeah. So
375
you're like
million.
400 million, we're 4 million. So we're like an eighth of what the
You're
US is.
like Los Angeles,
Yeah,
pretty
we are
much.
like lots. So that's just it. Well, here's the deal. We're the state of California, a
Yeah.
little bit above and beyond that, right? So at 40 million, sorry, we're at 40 million, 400 million. I finally got it right. Anyway, population a lot less. Um, because of the things that people were sort of forgetting and because of the increase in the inflation of everything, but it was global and the pandemic that nobody knew how to run and money got spent. Everybody has to blame somebody. And I'll agree. I live in the most expensive part of Canada. It's insane. It's comparable to New York City, if not more in some cases. Like it is insanely expensive, right? I'm going to just say it right here. My rent is cheap because I decided to move in here in 2019 before the pandemic. And even then, it's a two-bedroom basement suite, not even 1,000 square feet, with my three children. And I got it for 2,200 a month. If I were to rent it now, it would be 3,200 a month easily. These are mortgage payments, people. If I want to be in a townhouse that houses, three bedrooms and my children, it would be 5 grand, if not more a month.
I am shocked and stunned because I've lived in my house. I grew up in my house. I've lived here almost all my life, and they built apartments. This is where I live is the one of the wealthiest areas in the area, but I lived here all my life. There's no way I could buy in here now. But there's apartments, very nice apartment, townhome apartments, whatever. They start at $5,000 rent. That's starting. That's the smallest apartment. I don't even know if that's a one bedroom, and they go up to 7,000.
Mhm.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Mhm.
Like,
It's insane, Jody. It's insane. And this is again why we're in such crisis. Now and it has been. And the problem is that the Bank of Canada and the interest rates kept going up, 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 up. And then the pandemic. But I mean, here's the deal. Hands were sort of tied. And Trudeau was just too slow to make some of these decisions. Okay. And yes, he did screw up a lot of things. There's no question. And he needed to go. It's why he stepped down. It's why Biden stepped down. He couldn't hold weight with his words. Trudeau, same sort of idea. But we watched what happened in the US and the fact that Kamala didn't win, which was so sad. She just didn't have enough time in a fair run, and that she's a woman and nobody's ready for that because of the fucking misogyny in that country.
and we
Anyway,
had Elon Musk messing with computers,
yeah,
and
and
Trump has
all of it,
already, he's
all of it.
admitted 3 times, more than 3 times,
I
that
know,
he has
I
rigged
know.
the election. So that is a whole
Right.
other issue.
So
I'm not going to go
even
all
though Trudeau stepped
stolen.
down, I would have gone conservative, and I didn't even like Polyev. Okay, I liked him a couple years ago. He's gotten incredibly arrogant. He's gotten worse, and then Mark Carney stepped in, and I went, "Whoa, who's this guy?" He's PhD, he's educated, run banking, huge. Like the guy can talk like he is meant to be in this position. And he's what's going to save, hopefully, pull like I but here's the deal. We've never had to fight for our sovereignty. We should be focusing on our own political issues, such as the housing market, the inflation, the cost of living, all of the things, our healthcare, our judicial system being poor, all the things that are primitive and the things that we need as a country to get back into order and place or to change policies. We shouldn't be thinking and having to fight for our fucking sovereignty and being threatened and having a tariff war with dumb fuck down south. So here's the deal. The reason why it swung liberal so hard and heavy
I'll
is
read it.
because Trump literally, but before, even then, as soon as he started threatening not just tariffs, but the sovereignty of our country and us becoming the 51st state, people went, fuck that. We
Yeah.
need somebody that can fight Trump if this is going to happen. And now we need to fight for our protection of our sovereignty and our country. We shouldn't have to do that. No person in history has ever influenced our election. And the fact that you sent me what you sent me and that Trump said what he said on our election day,
And
that
I'm
shit
going
is
to read that in a
illegal.
minute.
Yeah, go ahead, read it right now.
Okay, first off, I do want to say Elon Musk he also tried to interfere with, I think it was Germany's election. And he said, I have paid enough money to this country that I have a say. So we're talking toxic nonsense. And right now, I mean, this is the perfect time to have a podcast about toxic nonsense
Yeah.
because this whole,
Dictatorship.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Trump, he truth socialed whatever the fuck that thing is. Um, Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all the businesses quadruple in all caps, quadruple in size in all caps with zero tariffs or taxes if Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States.
Hmm.
And then what else did he say? Oh my God, no more artificially drawn line from many years ago. He continued apparently referring to borders, an issue that he has used in 3 elections to divide Americans while scapegoating immigration as the root cause of America's social disorder. Look how beautiful this land mass would be. Free access with all caps again, no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. America can no longer subsidize Canada with hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we have been spending in the past. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state.
He's such a dumb fuck. And then what did Polyev say back?
Let me find it because it was amazing and I just had it and I just lost it. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, people.
Okay.
Um,
As you're finding it, I'm just going to say Polyev is probably morbidly pissed at Trump because he fucked up his election because he would have won had Trump stayed out and
oh,
not threatened sovereignty.
Here it is. I love this. I don't know the man. I'm glad he didn't win, but I love what he just said. President Trump, stay out of our election. The only people who will decide the future of Canada are Canadians at the ballot box. Canada will always be proud, sovereign, and independent, and we will never be the 51st state. Today, can't Canadians vote for change so we can strengthen? Strengthen what? Sorry, it's one of those ads that now I have to go to X and I am not on X and I hate X.
Yeah, me too.
Um, Today, Canada can vote for change so we can strengthen our country, stand on our own 2 feet, and stand up to America from a position of strength.
Mhm. So unfortunately, Polyev doesn't have the financial backing and
You mean
education.
doesn't have Elon Musk?
Well, no, well, yeah, okay, no, but
Because
Carney,
that's
yeah,
how Trump.
yeah, exactly. But Carney has like it's not the money that he has, it's not financial backing, it's financial education and working in he worked for the banking system and
Yeah.
he's PhD'd and he's been overseas and he knows finance inside out and backwards, how it
Not
works.
just Canadian finance, but he knows because he was in
International
Europe
finance.
and he did
He
the
worked in Britain. Yeah, when the what is it called, the Brax, which he told everybody not to vote for, but they did anyway, and then he got blamed.
oh,
And you know, this
Brexit.
is people Brexit. Yeah, people will blame anybody. And here's the deal: are you guys politicians, the people that speak the loudest about oh blah blah blah? No, you're not in the position. You can't fucking make a better decision or run a country. And they're the ones that are the quickest to speak and tear people down. But I will say this, had Carney not stepped in, had it been somebody else for the Liberals that isn't as strong spoken and educated as Carney, the Liberals would have never gotten in. And I don't even know, it would have been a way tighter race for sure had Trump stayed out. But this is, and Peterson says it, Jordan Peterson, love-hate relationship with that guy. He's such a misogynistic piece of shit, but he is a psychologist and but he's also very much in bed with Danielle Smith, who's the premier of Alberta, who was also seen in Mar-a-Lago and parading around with all the fucking megas. And Trump in bed with Trump. Same with Kevin O'Leary, who's also a scumbag, who's all like, we might as well just accept the fact that we're going to become the 51st state. Ew, no, because it's all lining their pockets. It's all about money, right? And so the whole thing, had Trump just not threatened our sovereignty, everybody would have gone conservative. And if you look at the map and our voting, it's all blue. versus red. But unfortunately, those massive cities like Vancouver, Toronto, like all
Wait,
and
you guys are backwards though. Your blue is conservative?
yeah, our blue is
Yeah.
conservative, our red is liberal, right?
So
So
yeah.
we are backwards. But if you look at the map, everything is blue, which is conservative, and very little is red, but it's the cities that are condensed with millions of people.
That's
And
in
so
like it is in the United
it's
States. And you'll
the
see
same
a
thing in the
lot of
United States.
red.
And blue goes first because, again, the more like blue collar workers, gas and oil. Here's the deal. When Trudeau was in power, I will say this, people are so against, oh, he's not for the pipeline and all the rest of it. Oil was up higher than it's ever been. It was 500 barrels a day being produced. So in a liberal government, and again, people just they don't get it. They do not understand. But the craziest thing is, had Trump kept his fucking yip shut, and not threatened our sovereignty, we would have been voting for the right things to change, not to fight for our sovereignty in our country because some jackass thinks he can take it over. And that's what's really shitty. And that's why everybody swung back liberal. They would have gone conservative, but then when they were like, no, Poilievre's too much like Trump, he's conservative. And he also doesn't have the experience that Carney has. And the things that he's saying, how can he back it up? And his whole platform didn't change when Carney came in. He was there bashing Trudeau, Trudeau, Trudeau for so long.
Mhm.
And, but I'm not kidding you. Had Trump just kept his mouth shut, more people would have gone conservative because so many people, including myself, were done with liberal
Yeah.
because of our economy being so shot. But I just couldn't go with, I don't trust him and Trump. I do not trust that he says, shut up, Trump. It's our election. It's our whatever. Stay out of it. Yeah. Here's the deal. Trump or Polyev is not Trump. Okay. He's not a sociopath. He's not a psycho. Sorry, not. He's not a psychopath. He's okay. He's egotistical. He's full of himself. He's higher on the narcissistic spectrum, but he's not a narcissist like Trump is. We don't mix church and state. Our conservative leader and our conservative party is very different than the Republicans. Okay, we don't talk about God in Canada. It's a very personal, private thing. We don't bark and push it down people's throats, and it doesn't become part of our parliament and our government and our democracy. And so, again, conservative government, when Harper was running it, more of a balanced budget, but underdevelopment in homes. Hence as to why, because the Harper government, we didn't have the infrastructure, and now everything has gone way up. He also let in all of the foreign buying, which Trudeau put a stop to or tried to. You had multi-billionaires coming in from China, buying up all of the homes in Canada and driving up the housing market. And that was all Harper. That was a conservative government prior to our Republican, or sorry, I'm getting the two mixed up, prior to the Liberals coming into play, where he put in a foreign tax for foreign buyers. They had to pay 15% more in tax if you're going to buy here. And here's the deal. We're on the Pacific Rim, so we have a high influx of Chinese. The Chinese aren't stupid. They're hardcore bargainers and they're hardcore, negotiators. They found ways to get around that tax, but Trudeau tried to implement something to stop the foreign buying, which was driving up the housing market. We forget all of these things. But again, I will say the conservatives would have gotten back in because everybody was done with the liberals and feeling like Trudeau just didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't. But now that Carney stepped in and that Trump kept threatening our sovereignty, and he wanted Poilievre to get in. He was all about Poilievre getting in. He wanted that conservative leader in. He tried to use the reverse psychology before by saying, oh, yeah, it'd be great with a liberal government. I would love that. No, we won't, because here's the deal. When Carney came in after Trudeau stepped down, he had a phone call with Trump. And for the first time, Trump went live and said, Prime Minister Carney, not Governor Carney. So automatically, this respect is back, and he's calling him by his proper whatever. But here's the deal, it's because Carney will bury him alive, and he's a way better power player than Trump will ever be. That's
I
why Trump doesn't.
can't find what was said, but something was said, and it was one of those clickbait articles, so I didn't click on it. Now I can't find what it was, but apparently Carney's already kind of obliterated Trump,
Yes.
which isn't realistically, it's not hard to do. It's
Yeah,
not
but
hard to
you
do
know,
that to a nar huh?
all the private bonds around the world that Carney says, I will drain those fuckers and you're going to lose your shirt over it. And Trump's like, I can't lose money. So he's like, I've got you by the balls.
But that's what I'm saying. It is
And
easy.
Pierre Poilievre doesn't have this. He doesn't have the ability to do this. But this is the shitty thing is that we shouldn't have to be doing this with another political leader.
But this
That's
is what happens. This is what happens when you have a narcissist. You have someone like Polyev who's going to acquiesce to the narcissist if he became, to try to get in with the good old boy club and to be part of
yes,
the flying monkey.
yes, yes,
And it
yes.
doesn't work. You can try and try, and Polyev could have been, and he would have got honestly slapped down so hard and been one of the good old boys, but Trump would have taken advantage of him and used him as long as people say yes sir, yes sir, yes sir to Trump. Where when again, it's not hard to knock a narcissist off their pedestal. You
Mhm.
just have to be prepared to
Well, money is everything. Money is you got to play hardball and you not have to know
yeah.
how to drain him financially. That's what's going to fucking scare him, and he can't have that. So here's the thing.
Yeah, and he
Also,
can't back down.
what doesn't belong in a government and making rules around gender and transgender stuff? Here's the deal. Everybody's so far left, so far right. Had Polyev just shut his fucking trap about his personal opinion about, gender, he also just said, how many genders do you think there are? And he's like, well, from my knowledge, there's two. Had he just says that shouldn't belong in politics? I'm not commenting on any of that. People have the right to do what they need to do, stay in your own lane. And again, but people who are so opinionated and find it frightening that we're moving in this, in the world where there's gender fluidity or people are trans or whatever, and people don't like that. They think it should become a political issue. That is not going to break your society, people, because people are transgender. It has no impact on the financial economy. It has no impact on the economy. It shouldn't belong in fucking politics. So had Poilievre shut his mouth and not been so much like Trump and saying, because conservatives, again, two genders, and he was arrogant about it, it's where he lost a lot of people.
And see here, because we have the evangelicals, mainly evangelicals, that are saying two genders, that's it, that's all.
Because it's church and state. You mix it. We don't do
Right,
that.
right. And I have asked people, and only one person responded. I'm like, why did you vote for Trump? How were you so wronged during the Biden administration that you had to vote for Trump? How did you personally suffer? And
Wow.
no one could respond. But one guy said, I voted for Trump because of the transgendered NCAA athletes. And
Yep.
I'm like,
That's my husband.
so,
That's why he would have voted for Trump.
but so all 10 NCAA trans athletes, all 10 of them that have absolutely no fucking bearing on you or your life
No.
or anyone in your family. That's why you voted for a adjudicated sex offender, 34 count felony, misogynistic, narcissistic, diaper shitting piece of shit. Sorry.
And yes,
Fine.
that's exactly who he is. And you making your bullshit speech and threatening our sovereignty through influence on Canadians, and that impacted our election. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not happy with the way that it went. It's just interesting how it swung back liberal so hard because of Trump. Yes, Carney helped. But if Trump had shut his mouth,
It would be
Jordan Peterson.
different. That's the only time that it's good that the one thing that is happening though.
That's why all the liberals are thanking Trump now. Thank you for interfering because
Yep.
otherwise we would be conservative
And you know
government.
why he thought a liberal would be good when he said that?
Mhm.
Part of it is because he feels like he could just say whatever the
Yep.
fuck he wants, and
Yep.
liberals aren't gonna fight back because in the US, our Democrats are just now sort of kind of getting a spine. Some
Mm.
of them.
Well, this is where everybody thinks here that there isn't enough policies and liberals are spineless. So when our Liberal Party came in, of course, the reason why Trudeau got in was because he was legalizing marijuana. And every 20-year-old and their dog was like, woo, wicked. Oh, it's going to be legal. And so they all voted for Trudeau. And then they put the injection safe sites in to the downtown east side in Vancouver anyway. And so it's legal, like they were just encouraging because they knew they couldn't control the drug problem. So they figured, but there was no resolution to this, right? It's just creating another problem. In 2014, in the Lower Mainland in BC alone, they shut down the only mental institution we had in all of British Columbia. And here's the thing, as I was going to make in our next point, everybody loves to blame mental health for criminal behavior, right? And especially in the States, we have a mental health crisis. Yeah, there's a mental health crisis all over the fucking world. You're never going to change mental health is mental health. It comes down to law and order and the resources that we have in place. And this is where the liberals have been poor because
Mm.
they, again, to
Not
save,
in our not in our country.
no, I know, but this is where it sucks. And this is why all the conservatives didn't want this because, again, but our judicial system and our law and order has always been crap. Even when the conservatives were in power, sex offenders still fucking get out to reoffend. Why?
Yeah.
So we need change regardless of liberal, regardless, and everybody thinks, oh, they're not going to do it. It's the liberal government. They just don't push. Everybody's too soft. Well, we also need the infrastructure for mental health so that what happened the other day in Vancouver, where a bunch of innocent people were killed by a man who has got delusional psychosis and literally drove through a crowd, killing 11 and 20 injured. It's not a hate crime, it's not terrorism. He's mentally ill, but he's supposed to be treated, and he had a whole mental health team treating him, and he was on the streets. He should have been in a mental institution under supervision, medicated. But no.
And we can talk about it now, but we were going to do a podcast on it. But I do want to
Yeah,
say,
we
because
will.
if anybody's listening that's jumping on it saying, see, mental health, mental health. In the United States, mass shootings, it is very different because mass shootings,
Very.
there's more than enough research that say that mental health is maybe anywhere from 3 to 5%.
Yeah, exactly.
So
No.
that's 97% are not mental health. But psychosis, when it is mental health, it's typically not guns.
No.
It's other things like knives.
Mhm.
What else did they say? Arson, driving a car into
Yeah,
people. It's
yeah,
not a shooting. So we'll
yeah.
talk more about that in another podcast because I think it's really important because it
Yeah,
pisses
that
me
is an important topic
off.
we need to discuss. And between the
Yeah,
two demographics, between the two countries and how
they're
vastly
different.
different, pisses me
But
off. I wish we had your Law and Order because there you guys have capital punishment. That doesn't exist. It's never
well,
existed in
here's
Canada.
the thing. Having worked in a men's maximum security prison for
Ex-
13 years, okay? I worked in all areas of the prison. I worked with murderers, rapists, child molesters, the worst of the worst. I've worked in our administrative segregation, which is prison in a prison. We did not have a death row, but I had people on my caseload that were commuted from death row and they came to mental
Mhm.
health because that's a big culture shock
Well,
going.
California doesn't have death row, do they? They don't
It
have
goes
county.
back and forth.
Oh,
It goes
okay.
back and forth. I think right now we do not have the death penalty, but they're talking about starting it over again. But I'm not 100% sure. But in prison, this is what working in a prison, at least in California, because in California, we at one point were the gold standard that trained other prisons. We were under federal receivership because we were not good because they had um, lawsuits for mental, medical, and dental. And so we were under receivership because of those lawsuits. So we were mandated to make sure we saw our inmates. I mean, we have it was called the Coleman
Mhm.
lawsuit, and we have the Coleman monitors, and they would come in all the time and they're auditors. So what are they there for? To find things. So we were always under auditing, making sure that we did what we were supposed to do, and they would add so much stuff. And unfortunately, it got to the point where there was so much paperwork and less time to see the inmates. So they were actually starting to go the other way around where instead of seeing inmates more and providing more mental health, we were starting to do more and more paperwork and less mental health. Like when
Mhm.
they were suicidal, when I first came, we had one page front and back for an assessment. When I left, we had 21 pages.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
there
it's
was the same amount of suicides as there were in 2007,
mm,
the percentage wise. But my point is trying to be with law and order and all of that. People sit there and say, lock them up, throw the key away, right? When people are caught, like the man who ran in the crowd, ran over
yeah,
a bunch of
yeah,
people.
for all the
Now
people, yeah.
people are like, put that fucker in jail, throw away the key. But once they're in jail, all I hear is like, oh my God, they're abused. Oh my God, these poor people.
Yeah,
No,
see, here's the deal. It doesn't matter what you do. You're you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
And I'm like, okay, so the same person that you were calling for their hide, basically, while they were going through the process, now that they're in prison, you're like, they're not getting air conditioning. They're hot. Do you want
But
a fucking pillow mint as well?
it's
They
prison. It's
in
not meant to be cozy. It's prison.
in prison, they have in California what's called a Title 22, and that is all of their rights as an
Hmm.
inmate. When I started working there, it was like this thick. It's a book they carry around like a Bible. It was like this thick. When I left, literally, it was like that thick.
Yeah,
They
it's
had
like,
more rights than staff had. And I'm
hmm
sorry, but until you go and visit a prison in California, at least, they have oh God, what's his name? Shawshank Redemption. What
Morgan Freeman,
no. Tim Robbins.
Robbins.
Tim Robbins? Yeah. Is that the guy, the actor?
I think so.
People are like yelling right now. It is. But he had an actors club, an actors guild that he came every week and
Hmm.
the guys did acting and then they graduated. We had art, we had plumbing, where if you take that plumbing trade and you do all the tests, you can leave the prison this close to being a plumber, a licensed plumber. You just have to take one more exam when you leave. Electrician, masonry, painting. We had prison industries. Our prison industries made soap. We have college. You had to get your high school diploma. There is so much to do. There was a concert by Alicia Keys. They did these at 6 o'clock on a different yard, so staff couldn't attend. Alicia Keys, John Legend, Common. Like they would have religious, like Easter feasts all the time, parties. They had Odinism, a religion.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, you
lot
guys,
like,
again, your prisons, you have more population, and there's far more criminals down south
yeah,
than we have here. But more of the criminal activity here is more related to actual mental health than it is down in the States. When you look
oh,
at antisocial personality, which has the lowest
yeah.
prognosis recovery, versus somebody that if they're just medicated for schizophrenia and
But
psychosis.
and again, I worked in our mental health crisis bed. I worked in our enhanced outpatient, which they're not going anywhere, so it's not true outpatient. And I worked in our lower clinical case management.
Hmm.
When Reagan was our governor in California,
Hmm.
he obliterated the mental health system.
Hmm.
He fucked it all up.
I know
Then
he
he got
did.
elected president and he
Hmm.
fucked up the mental health system in our entire country. So we have so many homeless.
Well, that's like here. So many homeless because they got rid of the psychiatric facilities and
Yeah.
facility. Now it's our local hospitals that have a 5-bed unit that they have a very momentary hold and then they release
And it's
them.
probably mainly what they mainly work on. I'm going to say, I'm going to bet they can work on suicidal
Yeah, it
more
is.
easily. But when they get psychotic,
No.
I don't think they know what to do because you can't have a 72-hour old hold or a 48-hour hold on a psychotic person.
No,
You
they need to.
stabilize them, they
Yeah.
leave, they don't take their meds
They
again.
don't take their meds. This is exactly why they need to be in a facility. And we used to have that till 2014 when it was shut down. And now that it's an old decrepit building and it's used for film and anyway, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do in this country. We shouldn't have been focused on protecting our sovereignty.
I don't know any other time in history, because I don't think there has been, where
Mm,
we have had such good relations with Canada and Mexico.
yep.
No issues, no problems. Even trade, NAFTA, I heard was a disaster, whatever. The trade that we have now was made by Trump. He's the
Hmm.
one that signed the deals that he's now saying are trash.
Hmm.
But
I,
just, I was talking to actually my brother this morning, and I said, really, if he's going to act like that to Canada, Mexico has every right to say, we're taking California back. We're taking New Mexico back. We're taking Texas back. We're taking back all of our country that you guys stole
mhm.
and see what Trump likes. I'd rather be Canadian. No disrespect to Mexico. I do understand Spanish, but I'd
Right. I
rather be
know. Well,
Canadian.
it's a bit of a culture difference, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just the strangest thing. And this election was so pivotal. Like it was just the craziest in all of history. Our NDP has completely been wiped out, right? So we have more parties that run in Canada. So we have our Liberal Party, our Conservative Party, our NDPs, our Greens, and then Quebecois, right?
And
Which of
what is
course
that? Would you say Quebec law?
Quebecois, like
Oh,
Quebec.
Quebec law. Okay.
Quebecois. So, but they never get, they only get so many seats. And so, again, you need 373 seats filled. And the Green Party only gets one. It's usually Elizabeth May and then somebody else. And then the NDP usually gets way more than what they wound up with, which was seven, which is very low. And the NDP really fight for people in union work, right? Like union workers. They're really backing the union, right? And then, of course, we've got our conservative and liberals, which are just like your Republicans and Democrats. It's exactly the same policies. But you'll always find in the House of Commons, we have these seats that have to be filled, and it depends on who winds up winning the riding and then the seats. So when it comes to, had Carney won the majority government, there'd be no say with the conservatives. But I actually like the fact that it's got balance. I think it's really important because it's not to say conservatives have a lot of good policies. And I agree with both, but it's just who is going to be better overall for running the country and the most appropriate educated person that's going to create enough change where we're not all going to be in a recession and die, right? But it would never in history have we had to fight for our sovereignty since being with allies with US. It's just stupid. And we should have been focusing on other things in our election. And it should be illegal that a political leader has to have that much.
Send the Canadian Mounties to arrest him, please.
Oh, I wish. The RCMP, yeah, 120%. But how? You did have influence on the voters. People are influenced by you. There are Trump supporters that live here, and they're just as fucking dumb as dirt as 90% of the Republicans that voted for Trump, right? They can't see past the end of their own nose. And most of them live in Alberta, not all of them. And I love my Albertan friends that are not.
Trump has already said that Carney is coming to him now. They're going to meet because Carney wants to make a deal because of all the tariffs. He also said, I don't know if you heard that 100 governors have called him. We don't have 100 governors in the
And
United
they're oh, and everybody else and dying to make a deal with him. China
200 countries.
is they're dying to make a deal. They're
There's
begging to make a deal.
193 or four
It's
countries,
just
dumbass.
embarrassing when you just listen to this guy talk. It's absolutely morbidly embarrassing.
You know what's even more embarrassing? How many people his ratings, his
I
approval rating
know.
at
After 100
39%.
days, I'm watching it
Yeah,
everywhere. It has the
at
lowest
39%.
polls
But
in
there's
modern.
so many people still, because here's the thing, the minority is the loudest. The
Mhm.
Trumpers are the loudest.
They are. They
You
are.
know when someone voted for Trump.
Yep.
There's no doubt.
Mhm.
And so it seems like there's so many more of them because, there'll be a Facebook post, and I'm not kidding you, a Facebook post of an accident that happened. And they'll be like, yeah, because the damn Dems won't make the lights longer. Something like that.
Mhm.
So you know who's Trump. I mean, they have to announce themselves on everything, no
Oh,
matter
they
what
do.
it is.
I know.
This kitten's up for adoption. Yeah, because we won't spay the animals because we need to have more. I mean, when they're Trump. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah,
but
100%.
So Trump, the thing is that they listen.
Mhm.
They think the stock market's great because they don't have money in the stock market.
Of course, it doesn't affect them.
And Trump tells them it's great. So if I don't have money in the stock market, I have no reason to know how
Mhm.
it's going. So I believe Trump. Trump tells them 200 countries. They are not, sadly, smart enough to know that there's not even 200 countries or 100 governors. There's only
Nope.
50 states. We
Yep.
only have one governor per state.
Did you know that my ex-husband went to UNLV, the University of Las
Oh,
Vegas,
really?
and in his geography class, he scored higher in naming all of the 50 states than the Americans that were in class with him. He knew geography, like the US geography better
That
than the Americans did. And that was,
Americans have always been like this,
I know.
prideful. But
I know.
since since Trump, since the pandemic and since Trump, they literally think that no other country is as smart, as rich, as awesome as the United States.
Again, ignorance, blind wolf and like willfully blind and just absolute dumber than dirt ignorance. Like I just can't. I
China
have
doesn't need us. They don't
right.
need us.
How
No,
about
no,
the Amazon
China,
thing that
yeah,
just
China
happened
needs
recently?
us. Sorry, I said it the wrong way.
Yeah, China
China
does
needs
need.
us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right.
We don't need China. I
Listen.
think it's the other way around, idiot.
Yeah, 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 moron. It's the other way around. How about with Amazon and now that they're now listing the tariffs and the actual amount?
No, they're not. No, they're not because Bezos said they're now saying that that was not agreed upon 100%, and we were talking about it for our Amazon hauler, which is the lower end, our clearance merchandise. They're fucking acquiescing at this point. Let's see if they continue. But he
Hmm.
called Jeff Bezos apparently.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
Bezos is another diaper sniffer. That's what I call them
Yes, of
now. It's
course.
diaper sniffers. Um, that he is acquiescing. What I love is Trump did an interview yesterday on his first 100 days with a journalist. Oh my God, what's his name? Let me tell you his name. And it was, I saw one part of it and it was awesome. Terry Moran. And Terry Moran is a senior national correspondent. And he literally actually didn't acquiesce, didn't bow down. And he was talking about Trump and how Trump on El, whatever Garcia, the guy who we sent to Trump
Hmm.
sent to El Salvador, he has tattoos on his hand. And photoshopped, it says M13 above his tattoos. Photoshopped. And Trump's like, it's not
All right.
photoshopped.
Yeah, it's not.
You
No,
see
he's just
that?
like, what about, and he was fighting and fighting and fighting. He's like, let's move on. I don't want to talk about this. Like, we're
And
not,
Trump's like, why can't you just say yes? Why can't you just agree?
again, narcissist.
Because you're wrong. And
You're wrong, fucktard.
I am so happy that that journalist didn't. He's like, okay, fine, we can agree to disagree. And Trump's like, no, we can't.
Mhm.
It's like, I am so happy because our mainstream media is, again, bowing down to him.
Mhm.
So this man standing up to him, I was like, I don't care what the rest of the interview was about. He deserves a Pulitzer or whatever for that part, for not saying, okay, Mr. President. He was like, no, no, he didn't have that on his hands in El Salvador. Yes, he
No,
did. No, he
no, he
didn't.
didn't.
So
Again, fake
we need,
news, Trump. You're spreading fake
yeah,
news.
we need more of that. With a narcissist, we've said this so many times, you and I, facing them one on one, they'll slap you down.
Constant.
A
They will not
group,
take an answer if you don't agree.
a group, a group can bring
Yeah.
him down.
Mhm.
If
100%.
everybody stands together, a narcissist does not stand a chance.
Nope. Nope.
And he's finding that out with Canada.
Yeah. Listen to this quote. This is what's funny. I sent it to my mom this morning. Canada is the friend who deals with a midlife crisis by going to therapy, giving up booze, and finding a healthy new partner. Meanwhile, this is the US talking. Meanwhile, we took up meth, got back with our toxic ex, and are currently driving our Cybertruck off a cliff. Congrats, Canada. So happy for you.
That is, I don't know who wrote that. That
I'm
is
sending it to
awesome.
you. It is so good. And
That
it's,
is a hundred
yeah,
percent.
yeah, yeah.
And I am seriously, I am so happy for Canada. And I am, this sounds really weird, but I'm excited to see Carney bitch slap Trump.
Oh, everybody is. And he'll just do it at his wallet. He will because he's a finance fucking mogul and master.
Yeah.
So let's just see what happens. I mean, people are complaining after the election, oh, our gas prices are going up. Yeah, it happens after every fucking election, dude. What are you talking about? That's just what happens. Everything is going to balance itself out. We're not going to die. But yeah, he's definitely better. He's better than Trudeau. But man, it just is crazy because like nobody, and I mean nobody, even hardcore liberals were willing to vote conservative because we felt like we were such a disaster until Trump came along. And then
And
we're like, no, we can't do that.
now Italy is right wing. They don't, did you see, oh God, whatever her name is, and I'm sorry, it starts with an M and I can't think of
Yeah.
it. Maroni, she was at the White House just like, or visiting with them, just kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, when you go back to the debate between him and Kamala, it's the same thing. She's sitting there going, "Oh my God, like how you embarrass yourself every single time you open your mouth to the entire globe."
And now he's saying, literally, you've probably seen this. Maybe you haven't, but you probably have. He's floating around 100% serious. This is not a joke. Being Pope. Have you not seen that?
I know something recently about the Pope dying and that him chewing gum being disrespectful and not wearing black.
Yeah, let me see if I can find. Yeah, let's see if I can find. Oh, here it is. Okay. It says he jokingly, nothing is a joke. Except for now Trump is saying that everything he said he would do on the very first day, like lower the price of eggs, cut energy in half. He's like, that was all in jest. Everybody knew that. I wasn't serious.
But not to the dumb people, not to the ones that literally will like sniff his ass
Sniff the diaper.
forever.
This is what Lindsey Graham said. I was excited to hear that President Trump is open to the idea of being the next pope. This would truly be a dark horse candidate, but I would ask the papal conclave and Catholic faithful to keep an open mind about this possibility. Now, I am Jewish, but I think Catholics are smart enough to see this man for who he is and look at this and go, are you fucking kidding me?
Mhm.
Are you fucking delusional?
Mhm.
Are you a fucking idiot? The service at the funeral for the Pope, they talked about what the Pope wanted. And I don't think they mentioned Trump by name, but they talked about immigrants. They talked about treating people humanely. They talked about the LGBTQ, all the things that Trump is not doing.
No.
They talked about that is what Christianity truly is.
Yeah.
So you honestly believe that these people are going to fucking seriously consider the Trump as a pope? Trump can't even hold a Bible the right way.
Do you know what it feels like? If any of you out there, I'm not sure who understand or know much about European history or British history in particular. So there was a time in the 17th, 15th and sorry, the 16th and 17th century where King Henry VIII was became king, and he decided to break away from the Catholic Church, which ran all of England and the UK and Europe primarily. It was like Lutheran or Catholicism. It was the Pope. It was literally everybody was Catholic. Everybody and their dog was Catholic, right? But he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn and annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. So he tried to get an
What a
annulment. And in the
divorce.
Catholic faith, you can't have a divorce.
Yeah.
So he had to go to the Pope, and the Pope wouldn't give it to him, it wouldn't grant. So he broke away from the Catholic Church and became the Church of England,
Created his own religion.
created his own religion, a Protestant religion. How much does Henry VIII sound like Trump? And he is a pinnacle of our history. The most famous, in fact, of British monarchs because of how unbelievably evil he was. He killed all of his, well, like he had six wives and he killed how many of them? Three or four? I can't. It's Catherine Parr was his last wife. Catherine Howard, she got beheaded for adultery. And then Anna Cleves, he let go, but because she was ugly and he didn't want to be with her. But Anne Boleyn was the first one he beheaded due to not having a son.
Yeah.
Couldn't bear a son, a male child, a male heir. And so and then he was already on to Jane Seymour. She was the only one that bore him a live son, but then died of puerperal fever, which was childbed fever, an infection after Edward was born. And then Edward died in childhood. Again, but narcissist broke away from the Catholic Church. That's a
To
big deal.
create his own religion and
Create his
create
own
a religion
fucking
that,
religion. And
what is
then
it
what did
now?
he do? Yeah, well, it's Protestant religion. So if you're a Protestant, right? Like, so basically, and then his daughter, Queen Mary, Bloody Mary is what her name was. She became queen and she tried to get back the Catholic faith and she would burn everybody at the stake that was a Protestant because she wanted her mother's faith, who is Spanish, Queen, uh, the Queen, sorry, Anne of Aragon. So, or not Anne, sorry. Oh, Catherine of Aragon. And that was his first wife. And she was a Spanish princess and then became queen. And then but she was Catholic because she was Spanish. And so she tried to reinstate the Catholicism and burned everybody at the stake. That's how she gained the name Bloody Mary. And then Queen Elizabeth I took over and went back to Protestant. And then it was this big fight throughout history for a long time. But King Henry VIII was the one that created his own religion and broke away. That is some downright insane narcissism. Look at Trump. Dictator. History repeats itself, guys, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
And it typically gets worse when it repeats.
Yes.
Okay, let me put it this way, because I've had clients say to me, but history repeats, so I'm not going to do that again. I said, here's the thing. History doesn't repeat if we learn from history. It's the fact that we don't learn from history that it keeps repeating.
Well, not the right
Because,
people learn. Not the right people learn from history. And
right,
when you've got
but they
like,
don't learn. That's the thing. If history was 100% going to repeat, then we wouldn't have prisons. We just kill them. I mean, because otherwise they're going to reoffend. That's harsh. I'm not saying that that's what we do, but I
no,
mean, if somebody is a repeat offender, that's history repeating. So it's going to keep happening. So we either keep them locked up forever or just kill them because history is going to repeat. So history only repeats if you don't learn from history. That's the problem, is we don't learn from history.
but
We
do we
learn
not learn, or is it people in power and that are narcissistic that just want power and don't give a shit?
that it's both, because what happens is we get so far from history that people start to listen to the narcissist and don't learn from history, like the Holocaust.
Yeah.
How many Holocaust deniers are there now? A lot. How many survivors are there? Not many. Once those survivors are gone, it's harder to keep, and we already have Trump in power. We already
Yeah.
have 1933, 36 starting all over
All
again,
over again.
because we're almost 100 years away. We're 90 years away. So the people now are listening to the people in charge who know history, but they're narcissistic, they're cluster B, so they're changing it for their narrative.
Yes, power,
Mhm.
dictation, right?
If you had to, I'm going to change the subject just for a second, similar but different. If you had to pick being a clinician, the worst, going through the whole DSM, what do you think is the most dangerous, the worst?
To work with?
Just it for society, I guess.
Yeah, antisocial.
Cluster B
Cluster B. Yeah, antisocial. And
and
ultimately,
narcissist.
well, so cluster B, it's like your whole group of personality disorders.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Narcissists, I think, are the worst of the cluster Bs, because even antisocial gets a little better with age.
Oh,
In prison, I would have the absolute worst in prison. And as
interesting.
they got to be older, they're like, I'm done. I'm tired.
Mm.
I'm done.
Yeah, I still don't have remorse and I still don't have empathy, but I'm done trying to put on a facade or a fake show or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm tired of fighting, if you like, physically, mentally, emotionally, just fighting. And some of them actually, I had guys that actually started to work
Mm.
on why they were in there and what they did. Narcissists, they're the only personality, I think. Yeah, the only personality disorder that gets
Worse
worse with age.
with age. They do. They truly get worse with age.
Worse. Yeah,
delusional because they lose their looks.
they lose
They
everything.
lose everything that garners them attention.
Yeah. And so they end up in a diaper with cognitive issues. And what happens what is I can't pull the supply like I used to. I can't be charming and cunning and draw people in. So now I'm just an angry fuck.
And then they get angry and they get pissed off and they're so quick to lose their narcissistic injury and quick to lose their temper. Yep.
And
Yep.
a
Yep.
wounded
Yep.
narcissist is a dangerous narcissist.
Hi, my ex-husband. I
I
loved him.
said that the day that when Trump was running and the day he was elected, I'm like, we're fucked
Mhm.
because he has so much rage because he was so wounded. He has
Well,
been fighting
that's
for four years.
why he has come back with a vengeance and everything happens so fast because he's been waiting 4 years
Yep,
to get vengeance, to
yep,
seek out revenge. And he's spiteful
yep.
over
And
shit like
I am looking forward to seeing what Canada does.
it's going to be interesting. I have to say, like, Carney's funny. He's witty. He was okay. Who's the guy that we were talking about in the last podcast that I can never remember his name, but he's like
Jon
a
Stewart.
yes. So he interviewed Carney not too long ago when Carney first got into when Trudeau stepped down before the election. And he's like, so, and he's asking, he's like, how do you feel about becoming the 51st state and blah, 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 blah. Like, what are your, he's like, well, here's the deal. It's never going to happen. Canada will never become the 51st state. Right. And he's like, and he compared it to a relationship. He's just like, sorry, it's not you, it's us. It's us. It's not you, right? He's like, we can be friends with benefits, but just a few benefits, right? And he was speaking as though he's in a relationship, and it was so funny and it was so witty. Carney's on it. Like he is really, really an intelligent guy. And I will say it was so interesting that when Trump was threatening these tariffs hard and Trudeau was right before he stepped down. And we're like, where have you been for 9 years? Because he was like, fuck Trump. Like he was actually really like like he called him Donald, and he was being called governor, and he was retaliatory. He was right back. Doug Ford and Trudeau were on it. And as Canadians, we're just like, oh, this is good. And I had a newfound respect for Trudeau right before he stepped down because he didn't take Trump's shit. But
Yeah.
it didn't stop Trump from insulting him and calling him the governor of Canada and to be the 51st state and the tariff wars and all the rest of it. And he's like, what you're doing is incredibly stupid. And we're like, wow, this is awesome. Where have you been? Well, Carney comes into power, okay? And he steps up and they have their phone call. And right away, Trump, right after that, was televised and he came out in the media and said, I had a great conversation with Prime Minister Carney, Mark Carney, and Canada, we're going to be good, we're going to be fine, we're going to figure it, instead of being insulting and rude and threatening and tariffs and the blah blah blah. And I'm like, what the hell happened in that conversation for him to turn so quickly to not calling him governor, threatening
He
our sovereignty?
probably bitch slapped Trump.
He did
Yeah.
financially. And what he did is he threatened all of those bonds
Yeah.
around the world that he would just drain them. He's like, we'll just drain the shit out of these bonds, and then you are going to be screwed and you're gonna have nothing.
And the really shitty thing is Japan just pulled a bunch of theirs from the stock market.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
did fuck
Yep.
this up. But
Oh, I
now
know.
what Trump's saying now, he put out a Truth Social thing that this is Biden's stock market. This has nothing to do with him. He inherited this mess.
Yeah, but no, he didn't. God, it's the same with
No,
everybody
he didn't.
saying that Mark
Last
is
year he
inheriting
said that
Trudeau.
during Biden's presidency and the stock market was doing well. He put out a tweet saying this was all him.
But
It's
of course,
because
again,
everybody
deflect,
knows he's
deflect, deflect, just like a narcissist, deflect, deflect. And everybody's saying, oh, pulling him out of the Biden administration. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, again, ignorant, stupid people that don't know politics if it hit them square between their fucking eyes. Here's another thing in Canada. So many people didn't understand how to vote strategically. If you wanted your party to win, because you had several to go against, right? You had NDPs, primarily conservatives, and Greens, those are the main players. And sorry, conservatives, liberals, NDP, and Greens. And then in your sector, in your neighborhood, in your jurisdiction, right, your municipality, you vote for who you want, right? But the problem is that if your person is so far back, meaning that they're not going to get in with your vote because they're
You gotta
so,
vote.
my mom's demographic, right? Liberals were, Carney was way out. He would have never won his riding in that municipality. It was up against Elizabeth Green, who's the Green Party, and conservatives. And so because she didn't want the Conservative Party getting in, she voted Green. Because again, overall, you know you're not going to get Carney.
Yeah.
There's no point. You have to make sure strategically you don't get the party you don't want in, so you vote the opposite. But people don't understand
Oh,
this.
not in the United States, do they not understand that?
Well, because again, it's more complicated here because we have more parties. But again, everybody thinks, oh, I just have to vote for the one I want. No, not in your municipality. If you want one party out, you have to be strategic. You have to be strategic because Greens never get in, and we know this. There's like
Mhm.
they have a one seat riding in the House of Commons.
But see, here in the United States, people are like, we have Jill Stein, who always fucks everything up. I think she's Green Party. We had Kamala. Okay, let's go back. We had Jill Stein, Hillary, and Trump.
Right,
And people were
right.
like, well, I don't want Hillary, so I'm voting Jill Stein. Well, guess what? You're voting Trump. You're
Mhm.
voting Trump. When we have three parties, 9 times out of 10,
Yes.
it splits the
It doesn't
vote.
matter who you like or who you don't like. You cannot stand your governor, your mayor, your whatever in your area, in your municipality. But overall, for running the country and having a majority, like an overall government, you have to be strategic, and people just
Yeah.
don't understand this. So I live in a very heavy liberal because I'm in Vancouver, right? And actually on the North Shore where I live, it's really heavy liberal. So, I mean, yeah, my riding was like super high. So I just was able to vote what I needed to vote, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't affect me. But had it been low, and it was a low liberal riding where I was, and it was up against, say, the NDP and the Conservatives, I would have voted NDP,
Yeah.
which I would never want NDP for a government. Does that
But
make
like we have a governor now that we all love. Well, no, I'm sorry, Republicans don't. But he's done. Gavin Newsom, you might have
Oh yeah,
heard.
Gavin Newsom. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
read about it. Yeah.
So his time is up, and I'm praying. I don't think we will, but I'm praying we don't turn red
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many liberals voting or running,
Or
so many
running
Democrats running
yeah,
that
yeah.
are they going to knock each other
Yeah,
out?
I know. Well, that's the problem that you have to worry about. Here's the thing. When it comes to your sovereignty being threatened, so say Russia, let's just use this as an example, decides he wants to overthrow and take over the US. Putin is like, fuck you, Trump, right? I'm just going to go after North America in general, right? And now he's going to send troops over, and now we're in a massive war. Do you think then people are going to remain polarized? Is it going to matter whether you're fucking Democratic or Republican, or are you going to stand together united as Americans?
No,
Hi.
we don't stand together united as Americans ever anymore. Ever since Trump, ever
I
since
know.
COVID has
That's
there
the problem.
so fucking
That's the
divided.
problem. So here's the
People
thing.
were all on Ukraine's side
Mhm.
for the past 4 years, or what has it been, 3 years? 2022 is when they invaded. Yeah.
Well,
Now, because Trump pulled that shit, you've got a whole bunch of people pissed.
are against Ukraine because they literally are diaper sniffers. Like,
And nobody, to be honest, don't remember ever hearing anything bad about Canada. And now you have people posting that Canada's been draining us, there have been shit. And it's like, you got that from Trump.
I know that's why I won't go down there. I won't even go to Trader Joe's and cross the border. I'm tempted to go visit my friend who lives in Bradford, Ontario. And the quickest way to go is to cross the border and drive through the upper, states in order to get, because she's Southern Ontario. And I'm like, I'm gonna have a license plate, my British Columbia license plate on my car. I'm like, should I do that? Should I not? Am I gonna get shot? Like,
No, you won't get
it's
shot.
scary.
You'll get put in a detention center for 2 weeks until they realize that you're not a threat and send you back.
Here's the deal. Put me in a detention center and I would laugh at all of them and be like, you couldn't pay me to be in your, like, want to live in your country. I have safety. I don't even have to lock my door. There's no guns. I walked my dog home from my friend's house the other night. There's no, oh my God, I would never ever move to the US. I would never live in the United States ever. I have three daughters. You would have to have me hopped up on so many benzos because my anxiety would be so fucking high. Like, Jody, you've done a great job with your son and you're lucky and he's made it through school. But my God, the fear you must have had with him growing up. I can't even imagine what that would feel like. I wouldn't be able to survive it. My mental health would be so compromised.
Yeah. Thank God I live in California. That's all I'm going to say. People shit on California. They haven't been here.
Oh no, if I moved to the States, it would be California because you're so democratic. You couldn't pay me to live in a red state ever. But again, it's the out of control, it's the gun laws. Like it doesn't even matter. Like I would be absolutely shitting my pants every day of my life in fear of my children, or I'd be homeschooling them. I wouldn't even I would have them in bubble wrap. I would never let them
Yeah.
out of
I
it. I'd be
it's
terrified.
and when I saw a picture of some man going into some store with two guns on his holster, guns in his back, and he had holsters up here. Why? Why? Why do you need to work?
I will say this. I used to go to Utah every year for work. And I did feel relatively safe there because it's an open carry state and everybody's walking with guns. You look stupid, but apparently the gun crime is a lot lower because everybody has guns on them, and so they don't tend to have mass shootings. And they
Well,
don't, I mean,
everybody, so many people think that I would be the one to stop that mass shooter. No, you
oh, remember Dumb and
Dumb
Dumber,
and
or
Dumber.
Dumber Than Dumber, the dude, I won't use his name, but he was like, oh yeah, my daughter had, an AK or an AR-15. She would have blown that motherfucker away when he came into her school and shot it up because he's Florida. And I just was
Well,
like, I can't even listen to you.
supposedly she was at school.
Yeah, she
So
was
again,
at school.
the
But
story
had she
changes.
had, no, she was at school,
But
but
she
had she
wasn't.
had, oh,
His
she
daughter
wasn't.
didn't go to that school though.
Oh, what
His
an
daughter
idiot.
graduated years before.
Oh,
And she
apparently
went
she
to
was,
that
he had
school
the
because
video.
I think she was like 24 years old
Oh, well,
when
he
it
showed me some
happened.
video. Anyways, again, oh, she had a gun. I'm like, I can't even listen to this fucking nonsense. Like, it just aggravates the shit out of me.
Because security guards with guns, cops with guns get killed. But
All the
yet some
time.
Yahoo carrying their gun who doesn't have any training is going to take down the bad guy.
But I have to laugh. I will say, Utah, when I had my essential oil business, that was quite prominent at the time. And we were at this massive retreat in Utah. We went to the Robert Redford's resort, Sundance. And it was beautiful. And we were there and we were at this, dinner and convention and whatever. And one of the other guys and his wife who had their business that they were friends with corporate and they're like diehard Mormon Republicans. And he's walking around with two guns on his hips. And I just looked at my friend, as Canadians, we're just like, what are you doing? You look like a moron. What are you going to do? What's going to happen at an essential oil convention? You're a bunch of hippy dippy fucking holistic healers, and you're carrying your guns like, oh, I got my guns to protect. You look like a fucking douche canoe. Like you just look stupid.
It's
Sorry.
like the Wild West. Now we're going to put on our cowboy boots and our
Yeah,
smart
like literally is
boots.
like I gotta protect I gotta protect
We
my
ride at dawn.
rig, whatever. I'm like, dude, you're adding it like really? What's gonna happen that you need your fucking guns on your hips? It was machoism, it was bravado, it was
Yeah.
just stupid. But again, you would never see that here. Are you kidding me? No,
I seriously hate our country.
I
Just
know.
on one final note, I will say that told my brother, if somebody asked me how I was doing, like I hadn't talked to, and they're like, "How you doing?" It's like, I reached a point in my life like a year ago where I was actually enjoying life. I was comfortable. I could pay my bills. I had enough in the stock market for my son's inheritance because I'm deathly afraid of him surviving without me financially.
Mhm.
And things were good. I was actually for the first time in my life
Feeling comfortable
in
and
a
good and
really
stable.
good, comfortable place.
Mhm.
And then Trump was elected. And now every day, I kid you not, and if people want to say, oh, I'm acting, I don't give a fuck. But every day I wake up with, what the fuck is going to happen today?
I
My
bet.
son, I drop him off at school, I pick him up, and he's like, so anything new about Trump? Any stupid shit he did today? I'm like, I haven't looked at the news yet, but I'm sure there is.
But this is the thing, you already have enough to worry about with your fucking insane lack of gun laws and then all the violence in the States. But now you've got to worry about this dumb fucking orange turd. And seriously, like I'm shocked that nothing has happened yet.
I'm confused as to why nothing has happened yet.
But
I'm
like, I mean, the guy's got mass security around him for sure. But I just, again, I just don't understand. You're like the Constitution. How can you just not get rid of him? Like, just get rid of him.
Because the Republicans are the ones, there are articles of impeachment, but the Republicans won't do anything because they're very afraid.
Yeah, well,
Instead of joining together,
mhm.
and no, so we have to wait, hope. There's so many things I could say.
All I want to say is to anybody down there, I want to like, all to all my American friends and all of you out there that are living in fear and scared and the dumpster fire that you're in right now, we will never shut our borders to you. Just come visit, come stay, come up, come travel. It's safe here, and we're not an angry population, no matter how much has gone on between our two countries. We would never treat Americans with the hostility that Canadians are being treated because of the Trump followers. We would never do that. Just come up here if you feel like you just need to get away from the dumpster fire. Jody,
And
come up. Come hang with
we're
me.
planning on it, by the way.
Yeah, come
I
up
gotta
here.
talk to
Get
them about
Sean.
that.
Bring your son and come up here.
We at the Kings game, the Kings are playing the Oilers right now in the playoffs, and
Yeah, yeah, there.
they're like, "Yeah, I'm so happy people didn't boo the Canadian national anthem." And it's like, we shouldn't boo the Canadian. I'm glad they booed the
I'm
United
not.
States national
That
anthem, to be
bothers me.
honest.
I think it's poor. It's just poor sportsmanship, but it's not about the sportsmanship. It's a
It's
wrong word.
about the United States.
It's about our patriotism and the fact that we were threatened and
Yeah.
we're so disrespected. But you know what? Rise above it. Be better than that.
It honestly didn't
Maintain
bother
your
me.
level. I know it didn't. It bugged me because I just think it's gross. Like again, some
Yeah.
poor African American black girl and like
But
African
it
American
wasn't
chair. I
her.
know.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but the thing, it's like, could you imagine how she felt sitting and singing? And this is her moment. She's been asked to sing
Yeah.
and be a proud and patriotic American, and you've got a whole group of people booing you. Like it disgusted me. I didn't. That's not who Canadians are. Come on, guys. Like I get it. We're mad. I understand you're meeting disrespect with disrespect, but again, don't retaliate in such a poor way.
When I sing the national anthem when we're at hockey games or whatever, I stop at the land of the free and home of the brave.
Well, yeah,
I can't
because you're
even say
not
it.
free. You're
No.
not free. You're the least free
Nope.
country in the fucking world, yet they
Yep.
preach their freedom. You're
Yep.
not free, people. You are
So I'm
not
like,
free.
if I was going to sing the national anthem years ago for the Kings, and then I met my husband, I didn't sing it, but I told my sister if I was singing now, my sister and brother, I'd be like, and the land,
Yeah, but and
you guys can
hey,
continue.
do you know how many people in North America like to preach about that we're becoming communists or Trudeau's or commie or Mark? I'm like,
Oh
you
God.
know what fucking communism is? Talk to an Eastern European that would have to line up to buy yogurt every day, and they were not allowed to say anything, or their government, you would just disappear.
But
We
communism
didn't
in its
have freedom
pure
of speech.
sense
Yeah.
is not bad. Those are communes, like kibbutzes and stuff. Communist gets corrupt, and then it's Eastern Europe.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Everybody likes to say that Trudeau, he's a commie, he's a commie. I'm like,
Oh,
you don't, or
they
the
they call
truck fucking
California
convoy.
California.
I know, it's just like, shut up. You don't know what communism
No.
is. Go live in fucking Eastern Europe where there still is massive levels of communism. Poland, Ukraine, like, oh, I just can't. You
Well,
don't
you're
remember.
talking about the same people who don't want socialism,
Mhm.
but yet Sarah Huckabee
I know.
Sanders is begging for FEMA.
Hmm.
FEMA is socialism.
Hmm.
But yet Arkansas, very red, they don't want them damn socialist stuff. Well,
Hmm.
guess what? You got turned down for FEMA and now you're begging and begging.
Exactly. They don't even know what it is. They don't even know what communism or socialism is. Read
No.
a fucking book, people.
They're
Educate yourself. They're idiots.
illiterate.
Anyway,
They
on that
can't read
note,
a book. So,
yeah.
on that note,
Anyway,
Yeah. I am not, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know where I stand.
yeah.
Big time. So you know where this podcast stands. So if you're still expecting anything or are shocked that we're anti-Trump,
Yeah, okay. So, and here's the thing, guys. Like, this is actually really it's interesting material. So please comment if you have any, like, and but I say comment in the sense that if you understand political science,
yeah.
like you actually know politics to some extent, please don't barf a bunch of BS that isn't, again, back up your point, back up your perspective. Again, our countries are very different. Our political systems are different, but it's all to create social conformity. And so we live and have a healthy democracy, right? And the beautiful thing I will say about our country is that, and there was some political experts out there, scientists out there that were saying what's scary is watching our election is that Canadians are coming more and more like the US and the Americans and being so much division. So the divisiveness is so bad, is becoming so bad where of course the conservatives are so blah 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 and angry and all the shit that they're throwing out. Whereas like, why don't we just, the decision has been made, but respect each other, come together, and again, our government having conservative seats, a high level of them, work together. Again, because we're Canadian first. So again, if our sovereignty in both countries are being threatened by anybody for that matter, would you actually put your views aside, your political views aside as to whatever side you're on and stand together as Americans? Because you're Americans first and we're Canadians first before we are either a Democrat, a Republican, or a liberal or a conservative. But
The sad thing is,
which is
I
really
would have
sad.
said yes, and I had to tell my son this. When Obama was running against McCain, we were at dinner with friends that wanted McCain at Islands, and it was going back and forth, and we were like, yay, ooh, yay, but there wasn't animosity.
No.
We're sitting together and eating.
No hate. Everybody
No,
respected everybody else's political view. You didn't have to agree, but there wasn't hate and such a
no,
divide. Since the pandemic, everybody's so polarized.
yes.
It's either you're
Since
red or blue, or
not
you're
even
blue
the
or red.
pandemic, it happened with Trump.
It would happen with
Trump
Trump. I know.
made hate
I know because
acceptable.
people hate spreads like poison. It spreads through
And
quick.
they made hate acceptable and they guised it under religion.
I know. Welcome to why religion is so effing corrupt.
And it's love thy neighbor as thyself, unless thy neighbor is different than thyself, then you try to change thy neighbor to be more like thyself. And if thy neighbor does not want to change themselves, then you hate them and
George
do
Carlin said
everything that
it
you can.
best. For all of you George Carlin fans out there who I love, he's dead now, but he's an American comedian. George Carlin died a few years ago. Fucking so funny. Said religion, biggest crock of shit, whatever out there. He's like, here's the deal. The reason why and the reason why it creates war and all the rest of it is that, you believe in God? No, bang, you're dead. You believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in my God? No, bang, you're dead. And he's right.
Yep.
120% right. Because my God has a bigger dick than your God.
Yep.
Well
Yes.
said, but well
Yep.
said.
Yep. So on that note, I am excited to see what Canada does.
Yes, me
I
too.
hope a bitch slaps Trump every single time. Bitch slap that diaper off.
Yeah.
And I wish you guys well. And
Well,
yes,
let's get back to being allies and friends and no more hate. Come on, like this, it's ridiculous. We're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be allies. There never used to be animosity between especially, okay, politics. Politicians fine in government, but people, like civilians, just stop. And if
especially
you
when you don't know
are
what the fuck you're
angry,
talking about.
and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, again, look at who you're getting angry at. You're getting angry at just Canadian citizens who don't have a political backing and have no control. Give your
Canada's been
fucking head
robbing
a
us
shake.
blind forever.
But then, again, it goes to show, look at yourself. If you are going to take out your anger because of political issues in the governments, but you're going to take it out on an innocent civilian, you have a fucking problem. You have a problem. You're not
Canada has
well.
not been fucking us forever.
No. You're not well. I don't even care if I have a Republican who is a Trump loving whatever come up here. I would never say anything. It's none of my business. Not my country, none of my politics, none of my business. I can have my opinion, but I know how to shut my fucking mouth. and I have boundaries and I have respect for a fellow human being. Anyway,
On that note, guys, like, subscribe, comment,
yeah,
and we will see you soon.
absolutely. Have a good day,
Nice
everyone.
day.